Welcome to our deep dive on navigating U.S. airport exits, separating fact from fear. In this video, we will clarify the real process of leaving the United States, explain who actually gets stopped, and give you practical steps to ensure a smooth departure. First, let's outline what we'll cover and set expectations for the journey ahead. Here's our roadmap. First, we'll explore how U.S. exit controls really work. Next, we'll discuss who actually gets stopped from leaving. Then, we'll focus on the critical distinction for non-citizens between exiting and re-entering. After that, we'll walk through a practical checklist. We'll also visualize the process with a couple of diagrams and finish with quick quizzes to reinforce learning. Now, let's start with an important disclaimer. Before we proceed, this content is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Procedures can vary by airport, agency practice, and individual circumstances. If you have specific legal issues, such as pending cases or immigration complications, you should consult a qualified attorney. With that in mind, let's move into how the U.S. handles airport departures. Let's clarify the core mechanics. The United States generally does not have routine exit immigration controls at airports like some other countries do. As a departing passenger, your primary touchpoint is with the Transportation Security Administration, or TSA. TSA's job is to ensure safety and verify your identity against your boarding document. They are not responsible for determining your immigration status. In the background, Customs and Border Protection collects exit records, including biometrics in many contexts, and receives airline passenger information through systems like APIS, which confirms your departure. However, CBP does not normally run systematic immigration checks to stop people at the gate for ordinary departures. The practical implication is that, absent a law enforcement flag or legal hold, your exit should proceed normally. Now that we understand the basics, let's visualize the flow of a typical departure. This flowchart illustrates the typical sequence when leaving the United States by air. You begin with airline check-in and travel document verification. Then you proceed to TSA security for identity verification and screening. In parallel, CBP and the airline transmit exit information, confirming that you are leaving, but there is no standard exit immigration booth. If there is a law enforcement hold or warrant, you may be referred to law enforcement and denied travel. Otherwise, you move to the gate, board the aircraft, and depart. With this overview in mind, let's talk about who actually gets stopped. Detentions at departure overwhelmingly occur when there is a serious legal flag, such as an active arrest warrant or a law enforcement hold. Court orders can also restrict travel, including conditions of bail or parole, and certain family court orders in specific circumstances. There are also rare specialized holds, such as those related to export control violations or international child abduction alerts. Importantly, these stops are based on legal status flags, not on a person's race or nationality. If you have no active warrants or binding court orders that limit travel, your likelihood of being detained during departure is extremely low. Next, let's address a frequent point of confusion for non-citizens: the difference between leaving and coming back. On the left are common fears, and on the right are the corresponding realities. Many travelers worry about being interrogated by immigration merely for leaving, but the United States doesn't use routine exit immigration booths. TSA's role is safety and identity verification, not immigration status checks. While some fear that their appearance will trigger profiling, the actual mechanism for stopping someone is typically a legal hold, such as a warrant or a formal court order. Finally, for overstays, departure usually proceeds. The significant impact is felt when attempting to re-enter in the future. With the misconceptions addressed, let's look specifically at non-citizens and the exit versus re-entry distinction. For non-citizens, the key risk is typically not leaving the United States but returning. If you have overstayed, you can usually depart without being detained at exits. However, that overstay becomes part of your record immediately, and it can lead to significant obstacles when applying for a new visa or seeking admission in the future. You may face heightened scrutiny, possible bars, or other immigration consequences at re-entry. If you suspect any status issues, consult an immigration attorney before traveling. Keep careful records of your travel and documentation so you are prepared for future applications or inspections. Now, to reinforce the logic, we'll map the eligibility to depart as a simple state diagram. This state diagram shows the decision path for departure eligibility. Starting from readiness to travel, the system essentially checks for legal constraints. If there is an active warrant or a court-imposed travel ban, the traveler is referred to law enforcement and the journey ends with travel denied. Otherwise, the traveler proceeds to TSA for identity and security screening, continues to the gate, boards, and departs. Notes emphasize that TSA performs safety and identity checks, CBP logs exit data, and there is no standard exit immigration checkpoint. With this logic in mind, let's switch to practical steps you can take before heading to the airport. Here are concrete steps to prepare for departure. First, verify that your passport is valid and that you meet entry requirements for your destination. Next, ensure your ticket name exactly matches your identification. Third, check for any outstanding warrants or court restrictions and resolve them ahead of time. Then, gather your boarding pass, visas if needed, and any transit documents. Arrive early to reduce stress. Pack according to TSA guidelines for liquids and electronics. Be aware of your rights and responsibilities, providing polite, concise answers while following lawful instructions. If you are a non-citizen with potential status problems, get legal advice before traveling. With preparations in place, let's also clarify who does what at the airport in a quick reference table. This table summarizes agency roles. TSA handles security and identity verification. They do not perform routine immigration status checks. Airlines verify that you have the documents required for your destination and may deny boarding to comply with carrier rules or if instructed by authorities. CBP logs exit data and can act if there is a legal basis. Law enforcement executes warrants, enforces court orders, and can stop a departure when legally authorized. With roles clarified, let's reinforce your understanding with a quick quiz. Question: which factor most commonly leads to someone being stopped from boarding an international flight out of the U.S.? Options are: A. Their race or nationality. B. A routine TSA immigration status check. C. An active arrest warrant or court-ordered travel restriction. Or D. Having a middle seat assignment. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is C. Active arrest warrants or court-ordered travel restrictions are the primary reasons for departure stops. TSA does not conduct routine immigration status checks, and demographics are not the basis for boarding denials. Now let's move to a second question focusing on non-citizens and overstays. Question: a non-citizen who overstayed a visa wants to leave the United States. What is the most likely scenario at exit? Options are: A. They are automatically detained at departure. B. They can depart, but the overstay will likely create serious reentry problems. C. TSA will deny boarding for immigration reasons. Or D. The airline will upgrade them to first class. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. Overstays typically can depart. However, the overstay is recorded and will likely cause difficulties with reentry, including potential bars or enhanced scrutiny. With the quizzes complete, let's further cement your understanding with a timeline of preparation steps before departure. This timeline lays out preparation from 72 hours before your flight to departure. At 72 hours, confirm passport validity and destination entry requirements. At 48 hours, verify that your ticket name matches your identification and that you have any required visas or transit documents. At 36 hours, confirm you have no unresolved legal issues. At 24 hours, complete online check-in and review TSA rules. At 12 hours, pack according to security regulations. At 3 hours, arrive at the airport. At 1 hour, clear TSA and go to your gate. At departure time, board and fly. Now, let's capture the most important takeaways. These are the core points to remember. First, there is no routine exit immigration booth at U.S. airports. Second, TSA's responsibilities are safety and identity checks, not immigration determination. Third, stops tend to result from warrants or court orders rather than demographics. Fourth, non-citizens who have overstayed generally can depart but will likely face re-entry challenges. Finally, preparation valid documents, resolving legal matters, arriving early, and staying calm goes a long way. To close, let's briefly summarize and offer a final call to action. In summary, know the structure. TSA handles security and identity, while CBP records your departure in the background. If someone is stopped, it is usually due to a legal flag, such as a warrant or a restrictive court order. Plan ahead, particularly if you have immigration status concerns, and use the checklist to minimize stress. Now, before we end, here's our final message. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, please like the video, share it with someone who is traveling soon, and subscribe for more practical guides. Tell us in the comments about your airport exit experiences or questions you want us to tackle next.